Hello, I'm Papia. In this problem, we have a probability density function. It's given to us right here. F of x is equal to 1 over square root of 2 pi times e to the negative x squared over 2. And the interval is from negative infinity to infinity. We have to use a symbolic integration utility to figure out mean, variance, and standard deviation for this function. And then finally, we also have to compute the percent of distribution that lies within the given standard deviation of the mean. And if you look at the problem, the given standard deviation was 1. Okay, so we'll discuss that later. So first, we have to figure out how to compute mean, variance, and standard deviation for this probability density function. Okay, so if you recall, mean, we usually use the symbol mu for it. So how do we compute mean? It's integral from a to b x times f of x dx, where f of x is the function that's given. And what is a and b? That's the interval. Okay, so let's set it up. So this will be from negative infinity to positive infinity, x times your function. So e to the negative x squared over 2 is in the numerator. And then denominator, we will have square root of 2 pi dx. So this is your integral. All you have to do is use a symbolic integration utility to plug this in and then find the answer. So pick up one such utility and find the integration symbol and plug in the function. Write down carefully is x times e to the negative x squared over 2, divide by square root of 2 pi, and the variable is x, and then you are integrating from negative infinity to positive infinity. Okay, let's see what the integral is. Well, 0. So the mean of this probability density function is 0. Okay, let's compute variance. So let's think one more time, how do we compute variance? So the formula is you integrate from a to b, and this time it is x squared times f of x dx. And then you subtract mu square. Mu is the mean. Okay, so this is the formula for variance. Let's plug in everything that we know. We already know that the limits are negative infinity and positive infinity. And then x squared times the function. So e to the negative x squared over 2 divided by square root of 2 pi dx. And you subtract, mu is 0, mean is 0. We just found that. So this is just 0 square. So you will not have anything extra here. This goes away. So all you have to do is plug in this integral in your calculator and then figure out the answer. Okay, so let's do that. You can just use the same function except change the x to x squared. So let's do that. Same limits, negative infinity to positive infinity. Remember, the variable is still x, and the answer is 1, which means the variance for this function is 1. Okay, finally, we have to figure out the standard deviation. What is standard deviation? This is just square root of the variance. So that's pretty easy. You do not have to use a calculator because the variance is just 1 and square root of 1 is 1. So standard deviation is also 1 for this function. Okay, so we figured out mean, variance, and standard deviation. The last thing we have to do is, this is very interesting, you have to find the percent of the distribution of this function that lies within one standard deviation of the mean. Okay, so to compute percent of distribution, you just have to integrate the function itself, fx dx, okay, between two values. Now here is what you have to be careful about. How do you compute those bounds? Between which two values you are computing the percent of distribution? Look, the answer is right here. So read it carefully. You have to find the percent within one standard deviation of the mean. So the mean is 0, and you have to compute the percent of distribution one standard deviation to the left of mean to one standard deviation to the right of mean. What does that mean? So the bounds are, you take your mean and subtract 1 times the standard deviation, that's sigma. Mean is 0. Sigma is 1. So it's 1 times 1, that's 1. So this is your left bound. How to compute right bound? It's 1 times the standard deviation to the right side of mean. So mu plus 1 times sigma. So this is 0 plus 1, which is 1. So the upper bound is 1. So this is the setup that will give you the percent of distribution between the one standard deviation of the mean. So plug in your function. Function is e to the negative x squared over 2 over square root of 2 pi. And you can use an integration utility again. Plug in this integral. You can use the same integral as before. Just make sure you take out the x squared or the x and change the bounds from negative 1 to positive 1 instead of negative infinity to positive infinity. Variable is still x. And the answer is, this is almost 683. That means, what is the percent of distribution? It is 68.3%, approximately. Okay, so we complete the problem. Thank you so much.